hold on, timeout. Now before we look forward to this weekend's games, for this week's previews and predictions, I want to take a quick look back with 5 things in 30 seconds from the midweek. So get the counter going. 1, I'm pretty sure that oil money can buy whatever it wants and whenever it wants, except for the Champions League, so thanks for coming, PSG. Though Manchester City still has a chance to change that. 2, all is right in the world because Spurs pulled a Spurs and bottled it against Juventus in the Champions League, and yes! Thank you guys for keeping my spirits up. I love you. 3, all 3 MLS teams beat their Liga MX opponents in leg 1 of the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals. That's right, Toronto FC came back from a goal down to beat Tigres at home 2-1. Then the Seattle Sounders beat Chivas 1-0 on a goal from Clint Dempsey in Seattle. And the New York Red Bulls went down to Tijuana and beat my Cholos Zolos 2-0. So we'll see if all 3 of them can hold on to their leads in leg 2. 4, I also want to give a shout out to the U.S. women's national team for beating England 1-0 in the final of the very competitive She Believes Cup. So how does that taste, England's women's national team manager Phil Neville? You liking your new job? Kind of like your brother, can't win any games. USA, 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 USA. And 5, and like I posted on Twitter yesterday, somehow, someway, Arsene Wenger is going to do just enough to keep his job, which means Arsenal are going to win the Europa League. And after they showed up and did the job 2-0 against AC Milan in Italy in leg 1, I might not be wrong. And did I make it? Was that less than 30 seconds? Boo! But I'm not going to apologize for something that I love to do, which is talking a lot. So let's get to our first game so I can talk some more, and it's arguably the biggest derby in England, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Or as it's known this season, the who is second best after Manchester City derby, because only 2 points and 1 position in the table separate the 2 most successful clubs in English history. But heading into this game, I believe Liverpool have the edge over their bitter rivals. Because the Reds have lost just once in the Premier League since October, they've only failed to find the back of the net twice in 2018, they booked their ticket to the quarterfinals of the Champions League after cruising past Porto, so their confidence is going to be pretty high. And maybe most impressively, they've only conceded once in their last 5 games. Yes, that is a true fact, once in their last 5 games, which has led to a lot of warm hugs from manager Jurgen Klopp for his defenders and goalkeeper, who actually might be the huggiest manager in the world. Just loves those hugs. As for United, this game might not even be the most important one of their upcoming week since they face Sevilla in leg 2 of the Champions League after they drew 0-0 in leg 1 in Spain, which means they actually have to try in leg 2 to go through, unlike Liverpool, who beat Porto 5-0 in leg 1, so they could rest some guys in leg 2. So it'll be interesting to see what lineup manager Jose Mourinho goes with for this Liverpool game, knowing that the Sevilla one is only 3 days later. But thankfully for the Red Devils, both of these games are at Old Trafford, so that is an added benefit. And they're coming off a huge 3-2 comeback win over Crystal Palace on a goal of the year candidate for Nemanja Matic, so they're going to have some confidence and momentum too. Which means this is shaping up to be a great game if Mourinho actually lets his talented players play and not force them to sit back in a defensive shell, which is probably why their 3-2 win over Palace was so exciting, because after they went down 2-0, they had to go forward and take risks, and it was a lot of fun to watch. But that's not Mourinho's style, so I'm going to say that United are probably going to hit a bunch of long balls into Lukaku to bypass Liverpool's high pressing, and that's going to lead to a game without much rhythm or flow, but both teams will still find a goal somehow, and they're going to tie 1-1. And now we're heading to Scotland for the Old Firm. After sacking my Latin doppelganger Pedro Caixinha, things have gotten much better for Rangers this season, who are currently in second place on the back of 4 straight wins, so they have to be feeling pretty good about themselves as they try to beat the one and only mighty Celtic in the league for the first time in what feels like forever. However, Celtic, like you would expect, are cruising at the top of the Scottish Premiership with a 6-point lead, which Rangers could cut in half, but Celtic also have a game in hand, and given the fact that they've only lost twice all season, I don't see them dropping those points. But still, you never know. Just like you never know what's going to happen in one of the biggest derbies in the world. So even though we all know, including Rangers fans, if they want to be honest with themselves, that Celtic are the better team, I feel like Rangers are due, and they're going to win this 3-2. And up next, it's Inter Milan versus Napoli. After that shocking defeat to Roma last weekend that saw their lead at the top cut to a single point, because Juventus, leaning on their experience to have an outstanding game and peak at just the right time because that's what champions do, Napoli cannot afford to make mistakes when they travel to Milan this weekend. But it won't be easy because Inter's defense have conceded 0.79 goals per game at home this season, and half of those home games have been clean sheets as well. However, with that said, Napoli have conceded the least number of goals on the road, which means we could be in for a very low-scoring affair, especially if Captain Mauro Icardi keeps misfiring for Inter, as is his tendency in 2018. So I predict that Dries Mertens, who has scored 7 goals in his last 7 league games, will nab the game winner, and this one will end 1-0 in favor of Napoli. And next up, it's Sevilla versus Valencia. Yes, for 1 week and 1 week only, we're going to take a break from the top 3 clubs in La Liga and talk about the next best 2, who have each won 4 out of their last 5 games heading into this one, so it's safe to say they are both full of confidence. However, it's Sevilla I'm most interested in because they have some decisions to make ahead of this weekend. They're currently in 5th, but 8 points away from the last Champions League spot, so all 3 points are needed against Valencia in their chase to secure qualification for next season. But they have to travel to England to face Manchester United 3 days later, so what are they going to do? Do you rest your best? Do you play your best? Do you play them in both? Do you play them in only one of the 2? And if only one of the 2, which one do you choose? Decisions. Historically though, the home side in this matchup usually does the business. Sevilla have won 4 out of their last 6 games at home against Valencia, while Valencia have won 5 out of their last 6 games at home against Sevilla, so I expect that trend to continue with a 2-1 win for Sevilla, with Sevilla manager Vincenzo Montella rolling out his best lineup in this game and his best lineup on Tuesday against United, because this is when you need your best players to perform, so you can't rest them. This is what they get paid to do. And now we're keeping it stateside for NYCFC versus the LA Galaxy. Because both clubs were big winners on the opening weekend in MLS last week, with NYCFC looking dominant in their 2-0 win on the road over my former club Sporting Kansas City, which is unacceptable, Kansas City, while the Galaxy looked 3 million times better than they did at any point last season in their 2-1 win at home over the Portland Timbers. So this should be a good game. That is, if the Galaxy can build off of this momentum since they're winless in their last 9 games on the road. Also, because this is the home opener for Patrick Vieira's men, they're going to want to make an immediate statement to their supporters that they have plans to do special things this season. So I fully expect their captain, David Villa, and his teammates to be up for this. So my prediction, and this is me factoring in the fact that the Galaxy have to fly 2,800 miles to play in this game, which makes me laugh when teams in, let's say, England complain about having to play midweek in Italy, which is only 600 miles away, you babies. Anyway, NYCFC is gonna win this 2-0. And here are some other games I'll be keeping these things on. Yeah. Ow. Like Borussia Dortmund versus Eintracht Frankfurt, because in the fight for Champions League qualification in Germany, the one team that is surprisingly in the mix is Frankfurt. They are currently in 4th, which is level on points with Dortmund, who are in 3rd, and just 1 point behind 2nd place Schalke, so this game is the game in the Bundesliga to watch this weekend. Also, fun fact for you, if Frankfurt can keep up this form and qualify for the Champions League, they will make that competition for the first time since 1960. And then I'll be spying on Feyenoord versus AZ Alkmaar, because with Ajax dropping 5 points in their last 2 games, which has basically handed the Eredivisie title to PSV, who now have a 10-point lead at the top, AZ are now only 2 points behind Ajax for that automatic qualifying spot for the Champions League. So this is a massive game for AZ, and less for Feyenoord, who, despite being the defending league champions, have lost 3 out of their last 4 games, sit in 5th, and are pretty bang average this season. And then I'll be keeping these things on 3rd place Aston Villa versus 1st place Wolves, because with only 11 games left in the championship, I want to see if the captain for Villa, John Terry, whose team is only 1 point above 4th place Fulham and 4 points behind 2nd place Cardiff City, can find himself back in the Premier League with a club not named Chelsea. So all 3 points are a must for him and his team in this one. And finally, these ojos will be watching Liga MX leader Santos Laguna versus 8th place Monterrey, who look like they haven't recovered from the loss in last season's final to Tigres, where they blew it at home. And with Santos Laguna having won 4 out of their last 5 and Monterrey losing 3 out of their last 5, I think this is only going one way, but You never know. And that's why we play the game. So thank you for watching, and if you're feeling saucy, hit like and subscribe. And then good luck to everyone in the Warren Ballers Fantasy Premier League and the Warren Ballers Fantasy MLS League. And then please, for me, have a good or bad weekend after you predict the right score for the Manchester United-Liverpool game so you have a chance to win some Warren Ballers gear. Later.